First of all, we must understand in this digital ecosystem and digital applications, you have a data lifecycle. Now, you try to do the best by designing systems to manage the data that flows through your application services, with creating modern architecture, even to the extent of creating modern data architectures. But the fact of the matter is that data, as it flows in the life cycle and as you process customers' requests, as you look at insights, and with this quest of data is the new oil, which has been going on for the last decade, you tend to use data, you tend to provide data to people internally, to your partners, and so on. And there lies a little problem in that whole perspective. Data that is of this nature, what kind of data is being shared, how it is being processed, has there been the whole issue of that? So when we take shadow data, we're not talking about the transactional data, it is there, but it's copy that could exist. You could even take something as simple as a screenshot of the data that is there. You may put it in an email and send it as a report of the data, not realizing how we want to identify that person, not realizing the kind of information that you have put in that, and whether you have set the right confidentiality aspects with this data. Because remember, with the data governance and the data architecture, there are very fundamental principles that are involved. You need to understand how the whole data lifecycle has to be managed throughout the process. Now, the fundamental problem, after having defined what it is, with the shadow data that breaks sort of the privacy aspect, is that it may be, and that is where the whole purpose goes in. If you think about from a privacy, it may be invisible to the consent and purpose for which this was taken. And there lies the problem which you need to address as a part of that. So when you think about addressing that whole dimension, that where this data is, you cannot consider this data as anywhere other than, and should be part of the core aspects, that if this data is being created, you should have the right controls in place to manage them. For instance, you must tag all these data pipelines, because at the end of the day, remember, when the data gets created, it only gets transformed and all that throughout its life cycle. That's what happens to it. So you must tag all the pipelines of data that flows in an organization. You must think about how do you retain that data? What are the means and channels with which you're going to share this data? Which is why a lot of organizations put DLP solutions in order to see that the data are not going through the other than the prescribed channels. And hence, you also need to consider that not only your fundamental data flow that is happening, but even this needs to be part of the data discovery, a solution that should be there and existing.